Have you ever wondered how one man's faith could change the course of history? What if a single act of obedience could lead to the creation of nations and the fulfillment of divine promises? Join us on an incredible journey through the life of Abraham, a man whose trust in God set the foundation for a legacy that continues to shape the world today. Watch this video until the end to discover how Abraham's story unfolds and see how his faith, his challenges, and his triumphs inspire us all. Don't miss out, stay tuned. As the last brick of the great tower in Babylon was crushed into dust, signaling the failure of humankind's united rebellion, Noah's descendants scattered across the earth. It was a time of endings, but also of beginnings, for while one chapter of humanity closed, another was being written. In the southern reaches of Mesopotamia, a child was born, a boy whose life would be entwined with the destiny of nations. This boy, born in a world fractured by linguistic and spiritual division, would later become the man we know as Abram, and eventually, Abraham. But the story of his journey from obscurity to significance is as winding and tumultuous as the rivers of the land he called home. Nearly 250 years had passed since the fall of the Tower of Babel. Humanity had abandoned the God who created them in his image, trading his eternal presence for the fleeting comfort of gods they fashioned from stone and wood. These new gods had ears but could not hear, mouths but could not speak. People now sought wisdom in lifeless idols and whispers from the dead. This shift was not merely religious, it reflected humanity's desire for control. For if gods are made by human hands, then humanity retains the power to define right and wrong. But far from the ruins of Babel, in a modest corner of the land of the Chaldeans, a man named Terah held his newborn son. He named him Abram, exalted father, unaware of the weight his child's name would one day carry. Abram's birth marked the beginning of a story that would span generations, a tale of faith, failure, and redemption. Terah's journey and Abram's call years passed, and Abram grew into a man under his father Terah's guidance. Terah himself was an ambitious man who set out to move his family from Ur to the land of Canaan. But the journey was cut short when Terah settled in Haran, a bustling city that became their new home. It was here that Abram's life took an unexpected turn. The voice of the Lord broke through the routine of his existence with a call that would forever alter the course of history. Go from your land, your relatives, and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, bless you, and make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, curse anyone who treats you with contempt, and all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you. This divine command was both a challenge and a promise. It required Abram to leave behind the comfort of familiarity, to trust in a God who had only just revealed himself. The stakes were high, for Abram and his family were polytheists, accustomed to worshiping many gods. Yet, Abram chose faith. He packed up his household, gathered his possessions, and set out for a land he had never seen. Faith tested in a new land. When Abram arrived in Canaan, the Lord reaffirmed his promise, declaring that Abram's offspring would inherit the land. In gratitude, Abram built an altar and called upon the name of the Lord. From there, he moved throughout the region, pitching his tent in Bethel and Ai, continually seeking to align himself with the will of this new and singular God. But life in Canaan was not without its challenges. A severe famine drove Abram to Egypt, a land of abundance but also of moral peril. Fearing for his life because of Sarai's beauty, Abram instructed her to claim she was his sister. His decision, rooted in self-preservation, betrayed a lack of trust in God's protection. When Pharaoh took Sarai into his palace, the Lord intervened, sending plagues upon Egypt. Pharaoh, realizing the truth, released Sarai and sent Abram away with great wealth. This episode marked the beginning of a pattern in Abram's life, moments of faith interspersed with moments of fear and failure. The division of the land and the call to rescue. As Abram's wealth grew, so did the tensions within his household. The land could no longer sustain both Abram and his nephew Lot, leading to a separation. Lot chose the fertile plains near Sodom and Gomorrah, while Abram remained in the hill country. Their parting seemed amicable, but Lot's choice would soon embroil Abram in a conflict far greater than he could have anticipated. The region erupted into war as four powerful kings, led by Kedorlaomer of Elam, sought to dominate the land. Their conquest included the capture of Sodom and its inhabitants, including Lot. Upon hearing of his nephew's plight, Abram mustered a force of 318 trained men and launched a daring rescue mission. Pursuing the enemy as far as Damascus, Abram succeeded in rescuing Lot and recovering the spoils of war. Upon his return, Abram encountered two kings, Melchizedek, king of Salem and priest of the Most High God, and Bera, king of Sodom. Melchizedek blessed Abram, offering bread and wine as symbols of peace and righteousness. In contrast, Bera offered Abram riches, which Abram refused, declaring his allegiance to the Lord alone. Abram's actions in this encounter demonstrated his growing faith and commitment to God's covenant, the covenant and the promise of a son. Despite his faith, Abram and Sarai struggled with the reality of their childlessness. How could Abram become the father of a great nation without an heir? God reassured Abram, taking him outside to gaze at the stars, a visual promise of his countless descendants. In that moment, Abram believed, and his faith was credited to him as righteousness. Yet doubt lingered. Sarai, desperate for a solution, proposed that Abram have a child with her servant Hagar. This decision, made in human wisdom rather than divine guidance, resulted in the birth of Ishmael. But God had other plans. He reaffirmed his covenant with Abram, changing his name to Abraham, father of many nations, and Sarai's name to Sarah. The sign of circumcision was instituted as a physical marker of this covenant, symbolizing the cutting away of sin and the consecration of Abraham's lineage. The test of faith, Isaac on Mount Moriah. In their old age, Abraham and Sarah experienced the fulfillment of God's promise with the birth of Isaac, whose name means laughter. Their joy, however, was tempered by the ultimate test of faith. God commanded Abraham to take Isaac to Mount Moriah and offer him as a sacrifice. This command was both shocking and profound, a direct challenge to Abraham's trust in God's goodness. Abraham obeyed, journeying 3 days to the mountain. As he bound Isaac and raised the knife, the Lord intervened, providing a ram caught in a thicket as a substitute. This act of mercy not only spared Isaac, but also foreshadowed the ultimate sacrifice that God himself would provide for humanity's redemption. Abraham named the place Jehovah-Jireh, the Lord will provide, a declaration of faith that would echo through generations. This event solidified Abraham's legacy as a man of faith, whose trust in God's promises outweighed even the love he had for his son. The legacy of Abraham. As Abraham's life drew to a close, he witnessed the beginning of the fulfillment of God's promises. Isaac grew into a man, the bearer of the covenant. Ishmael too became a great nation, fulfilling God's promise to Hagar. Abraham's legacy was not just in his descendants but in his faith, which set the foundation for a relationship between God and humanity. The story of Abraham is one of divine mercy and human frailty, a narrative that reveals God's unwavering commitment to his promises despite human failure. From the ruins of Babel to the heights of Mount Moriah, Abraham's journey reflects the transformative power of faith and the enduring hope of God's covenant with his people.